A lot of women think that they just need another diet, and what they don't realize is that another diet isn't going to fix it.
I have tried many things before.
Every diet in the world, I guess.
I've tried literally everything. I just never lost the weight.
Women blame themselves. They think that it's my fault that I can't stick to a diet, and it's not. And when you go and you look at these wounds and you heal those traumas, that's when you can actually release the weight, and that's when it becomes really easy to be your ideal weight.
Before meeting Brittany, I had tried other weight loss tricks. I had kind of like given up on that. So I was just going along in life, but feeling kind of stuck. And that's when I discovered Brittany.
I really appreciate Brittany's all-in approach in working with people who have subconscious blocks around food and eating.
I can just enjoy what I want and not stuff myself like I'm never going to have it again.
She truly loves us and she truly wants us to heal.
And these are women that have struggled with addiction for 30, 40, 50 years, and in 3 months, they will not have one addictive craving.
Once you start working with Brittany, your goal is for the weight loss, but then in the end, that's not your goal. It's more about discovering yourself.
I have seen such a difference in the way that I feel about myself. Through her work, I've got permission to love myself.
Healing of emotional hurts from younger years just vanished.
And because of Brittany and her program, for the first time in my life, I feel like I am awesome.
She has a way of teaching you how to know where to go next.
I have grown so much.
It's a journey, and her program really helps with that and helps you realize that you're worth it. Brittany's the gal to go to. It's totally life-changing.
I would love to know in the chat who's a student of mine. If you're a student of mine, say me in the chat, just so I know who you are. And if you're not a student, say not yet. I just want to see I want to see how many of you there are in comparison. Okay, not yet, not yet, not yet. Me. Oh wow, there's like a good group. Okay, Sue, coach and training, awesome. Rhonda. Wow, okay. Oh, thanks, Stephanie. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Stephanie just said, I used Brittany's methods to stop eating crisps years ago, then alcohol a couple years ago. Now I eat much less volume of food and dropped lots of weight. Thank you, Stephanie, for sharing your testimonial this early. Okay, awesome. Yeah, what I mean is if you're a student of mine, like if you have my 6-week program, or if you just like kind of know who I am and you maybe went to my free challenge, but you haven't gone through any of my programs. That's what I mean by not me. I want to ask you a question. How many of you guys have tried and failed to lose weight? Just type yes in the chat if you have tried and failed to lose weight. Yes. Okay, I basically don't see any no's. All right, so that's all of us, is what that means. See, if you really think about it, losing weight actually isn't the hardest part. We've all lost weight, right? The hard part of this is keeping it off. Okay, and you've been through this before, right? Let's start another diet, and you're good for maybe like a week or two, or maybe you're good for even a month. And maybe you even start to lose some weight. And then what happens? What happens? Type in the chat. Tell me what happens. You have a stressful day at work, you come home, the kids are going nuts, your partner's in a bad mood, and what do? What do you do? What's that moment? It's the fuck it moment. You say fuck it, right? And you go straight for the cupboard. You eat the cookies, you eat the ice cream, you dip the cookies into ice cream, maybe you find some stale chips in the back, and you even polish those off, right? It's the fuck it moment. And when you finally wake up out of your food coma, that's when the shame hits you. And you think, what the hell did I just do? Who's been there? Say I. Truth, I. Truth. Yes. Okay, let me tell you something. This cycle stops today. This cycle stops today, because after spending a decade and more than $100,000 of my own money, I have found what I believe is the only and the most effective way to permanent weight loss. Permanent. And you guys, I want you to write this down. This is without diets. This is without pharmaceuticals, no surgeries, no pills, no shakes, no jabs, no chemicals that have unknown side effects. I'm going to show you what $100,000 of my own money and a decade of my life returned. If you have a pen and a piece of paper during the rest of our time together, I'm going to show you the secret to permanent weight loss. Okay. And here's the thing. You can still eat whatever you like, whenever you like. There are no hard and fast food rules here. Okay. I have had hundreds of my students recently tell me that my techniques work just like Ozempic. They've been trying Ozempic and seeing what that's all about. I've been helping lots of people actually get off Ozempic, because what happens is the Ozempic turns the food noise off. Well, guess what? So do my techniques. They turn the food noise off inside of your brain, except there's no potentially dangerous chemicals, side effects, jabbing yourself with needles. Okay, so who's ready to hear about the solution that took me 10 years and more than $100,000 to discover? Yes, 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 yes. Okay, well, as I'm sure you know, diets, trainers, pills, shakes, even surgeries often fail. And women from around the world come to me for the missing piece. Again, I'm going to prove to you that permanent weight loss is absolutely possible. And when you embrace this missing piece, you can look the way you want while eating what you want when you want. You guys didn't find me by accident, right? Today, my hope is that you get a glimmer of hope and we destroy the lies that you've been told. Because the truth is, you've been lied to. The fitness industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the medical industry, they profit by prescribing, not by curing. They benefit long-term if they sell you a Band-Aid instead of actually fixing the wound. It's not in their best interest to address the cause of your weight gain. They'd rather sell you something to treat a symptom or two. How many of you guys know this is true? How many of you guys know this is true? Type yes in the chat if you know this is true. So if you're taking notes, I want you to write down the word goal, okay? Followed by a colon, because you may think that your goal is to stop your cravings, lose 25 pounds, fit into your old clothes again, reignite your relationship, maybe play with your grandchildren. But I'm here to tell you none of those is your real goal, okay? I'm going to tell you what your real goal is. And everyone should have the same goal. And notice I said goal, not goals, right? Are you ready? Your real goal is to find the root cause. People say, Brittany, I've been battling with my weight for years, but that's not true. You haven't been battling with your weight for years because it doesn't actually take years to achieve weight loss. Now, I know that's a polarizing statement on purpose, but what they mean is I have been manipulated, deceived, lied to, tricked, and conned into working on the wrong thing. And as long as I spend my time, my energy, my effort, and my money trying to solve symptoms of a problem, instead of spending all my time, my energy, my efforts, solving the root cause of the problem, I will always struggle with my weight. Is this making sense to everybody? Type yes in the chat if it makes sense to you. Okay, so who's ready to get to the root cause? See, you guys, I know this isn't sexy, right? It would be much easier for me to just sell you another diet or a pill. Oh my God, how many pills are there out there now? But there's a reason why celebrities, politicians, CEOs, and many people that I'm not allowed to name, and more than 257,469 women call me the missing piece. They call me the missing piece for a reason, because I'm here to give you the truth. Now, okay, if you ask me, obviously I'm going to tell you my perspective is right, because discovering the root cause of my weight gain and my emotional eating completely changed my life. And now it's changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of my clients. And I've been doing this for more than a decade. So if you ask me, I know I'm biased. I want to recognize that. Okay. So I don't want you to listen to me. I want you to listen to the women who are sitting in the exact same seats that you're sitting in now.
I started doing this the middle of January, the 16th of January. I have lost 11 pounds since then.
This shit works.
I've lost 2 dress sizes and I'm losing more.
I don't have emotional eating or cravings anymore.
I've lost 2 pounds this week.
I am centered, safe in my body, lost weight, kept it off.
I'm wearing clothes that I haven't worn in 2 years. And people at church are commenting, oh, you're losing weight, you're looking good. And I'm like, yeah, I feel good in everything. It's just awesome.
And during this time I've lost 18 kilos. The weight loss is just a bonus. I'm a much more confident, calm, happy person altogether than I've ever been in my entire life. And fitness-wise, you know, I'm fitter now at 40 than I was when I was 20.
I've managed to lose 45 pounds. It's just been so life-changing for me.
Could not have done this of my own volition. And this time, though, the difference is I look in the mirror and I go, hey, I like what I see.
Haven't been able to break the block of the rest of my weight, and I've dealt with chronic bloating. And I've worked with all nutritionists, doctors, probiotics, like vegan, whatever. That is a sign that I am in the right place. First time in my life, there's just nothing to hate on.
Okay, so I know those testimonials are really emotional and they're designed to get you guys excited because these are the things, these are taken from people who are in my programs who share their wins when they're asking me questions, when they're talking to me about their programs. Everybody's sharing wins about what's happening to them throughout the program. So at this point, you may be thinking, okay, Brittany, well, what's the root cause, right? You've probably heard this before. We've got 2 minds, right? We have a conscious mind and we have a subconscious mind. So scientists have proven that 90% of what you think and do is run by your subconscious mind. And this includes your thoughts on food and exercise. Your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior, they're controlled by this part of your brain called the hippocampus. Okay. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, okay, what does this have to do with my weight? I want you to write this down. The answer is everything. See, fears and phobias, they seem to arise without a clear reason. But what I bet you didn't know is that the hippocampus is in an area of the brain that stores memories and triggers automatic fear, anxiety, and pleasure responses. Okay, so we're going to do a test right now. We're going to see if this is you, because maybe it's not. And if that's the case, then you can leave and you don't have to spend your weekend with me, okay? I'm going to put a picture on the screen right now, and we're going to see what happens, okay? I want you to type in the chat what your reaction is when you see this picture. Type in the chat, what is your... Anne says, yuck, yuck, scary, freaky, creepy, laugh, sad, yuck, silly, happy, funny, ugly, terrifying, weird, ugly. Okay. Uncomfortable. No, thank you. Okay. Okay. Here, I put a little beach break in for you. Okay, everybody get your bearings. I know that's a little triggering to some of you. Take a nice deep breath. Stare at the beach, that beautiful, I don't know if it's a sunrise or a sunset, but I love that view. It reminds me of my days living in Playa del Carmen. Okay, we're going to the next one. What about this? How do you react to this? Yikes, gross, no, yikes, scary, run, sick. Smash it, no big deal, terrifying. Okay, all right, so you guys, what I want you to realize here is that as smart as you are, you may not even recognize or understand why you respond this way. You just know you don't like it. Okay? And if you reacted to this, I want you to know this is completely your subconscious mind. You may not even know, you don't even know why you don't like these things, right? Like if you're an alien from another planet and you came down to earth, you might think that clown is a cute, friendly creature that's another alien, and you want to invite them to your next space party, right? Or maybe you think this spider is cute and soft and fuzzy, and you want to pick it up and put it in your pocket and make it your new pet, right? So this is what I want you to understand. Your hippocampus is responsible for your good and bad feelings, okay? When an event occurs, it creates an imprint in the hippocampus. Okay, the hippocampus sends signals to the amygdala, which is your body's fight or flight response when you experience something bad, or the nucleus accumbens in the brain's reward center when it's a good experience. I'm going to do a drawing here for you. This is also the antithesis of my presentation, but I've practiced this a few times and I think I can do it. Okay, so when we're reminded of a trauma, the hippocampus activates a memory and it causes the amygdala to send stress signals, which can lead to behaviors like emotional eating to soothe stress. Because you can't eat food and feel bad at the same time when you eat, right? Your brain is releasing dopamine, it's releasing serotonin, it's releasing endorphins. It's basically releasing all the feel-good chemicals in your body, which is great for adaptability and it's great for keeping you alive, but it's not great for weight loss. Okay? All right. So this is your hippocampus. And you've heard the term impressions. They left an impression on me. Well, your hippocampus, when you have memories and experiences, it leaves an indent in the area of your brain called the hippocampus. Okay. And there's tons of them. Like this looks like a little like old school sponge, or I guess sponges still look like that, but remember those green ones with all the little holes in them? Okay. So that's what your hippocampus is, and it's filled with these. Okay. And then there's something called the nucleus accumbens over here, which is responsible for your feel good. This is your dopamine, your serotonin. This is all the happy feel good chemicals. And then here is your amygdala over here. Okay. So what happens in your daily life is, let's say, for example, you're at work and they hired somebody new, and you can't put your finger on it, but you don't know why you don't like this guy. You come home every day, you're like, oh God, you tell your husband, I cannot stand this guy that I work with. And if your partner asks you, like, you don't quite have an answer for it. There's just something you don't like about him. Okay. That is something happened to you. Maybe that person, just for the sake of example, reminds you of your stepdad. Or maybe this person has the same glasses that your stepdad wore, but it's not overt enough for you to be aware of it. Okay. So all it's going to do is it's going to set off your amygdala and it's going to make you feel stressed out. And so what you're going to think is, you're like, God, every time I go to work, I can't help, but I'm eating all the candy. Or maybe you have a new boss and he puts a lot of pressure on you. And he has like a lot of really strict deadlines or strict rules. And it reminds you of your parent, your mom or your dad, or whoever was really hard on you when you were a kid. So at home, you're like, oh, everything's fine. You can stick to your diet, you eat well, but at work, you just go nuts. Okay. The same can be true. I have a really good girlfriend who was left alone a lot as a child. And she really hates being alone by herself. So whenever she's home alone, she cannot stop eating food. Okay. Now, she doesn't know, like, oh, this is reminding me of my childhood and, now I'm going to go eat food. But this is what's going on subconsciously to her. This is how her hippocampus is reacting. Okay. And on the other side, you could see a plate of cookies. You come home and somebody in your house baked a big plate of chocolate chip cookies. And chocolate chip cookies remind you of making chocolate chip cookies with your grandma when you were a kid. And so what happens when you eat that chocolate chip cookie is it kind of feels like a hug from your grandma, which feels really good after a long, stressful day at work. right? We have so many positive associations with triggers that we are not aware of. Okay? Is this making sense to you guys? Type yes in the chat if this is making sense. Okay, I'm so proud of myself. I did the drawing. Woohoo! All right, now I gotta get out of here. So I want to talk about the nucleus accumbens for a minute, because this is the like lesser known one that most people don't understand. You know how you recognize someone's face, right? Like a friend or a family member, you don't have to put any thought into that, do you? Right? You don't think like, do I know you? You don't even have to have that thought, right? You just recognize them when you see their face, and you have specific emotions and responses attached to their face, right? How many of you guys have been in relationships? Right? Yes. Everybody should be saying yes. If not, you a liar. Okay. Have you ever put any thought into this? Think about your spouse or your partner. At one point, that person was a complete stranger. And now there are things that you let that partner do to you every single day that if anybody else did, you'd be like, excuse me? That like you'd be absolutely turned off and disgusted by it, right? Like think about if a stranger just came up to you and kissed you on the mouth, right? Or think about your baby, for all the moms in here. How many times have you let your baby take a sip of your drink? The baby just takes a sip and backwashes all into it. And you just think, well, okay, that's how it goes. But if a stranger walked up to you and took a sip of your drink and backwashed into it, how would you respond? You'd be like, excuse me, what did you just do? But you let your spouse and your kids do it, right? It's the same nasty, disgusting action. You're just processing it differently subconsciously because your hippocampus is sending those positive signals. When you are experiencing that person's face, it's triggering all the positive emotions, feelings, and responses. So this is just this. I wanted to give you guys another example of the reasons that you do the things you do because of the indentations in your hippocampus. The cause of your weight gain is in your subconscious mind, and it's specifically the emotional response to the people, to the places, and to the experiences in your everyday environment. You guys, this is science. This isn't like the brain according to Brittany. This is exactly what any doctor or psychologist would tell you about how your brain works and how it stores memories and emotions. Okay, so you're probably thinking, great, Brittany, what does my hippocampus have to do with weight loss? I'm so glad you asked. All right, I want you to take a look at this iceberg because this is a perfect representation of your mind when it comes to weight loss. You see the tip of the iceberg here. This is that part that you can see above the surface. And this is what most people focus on, right? Diet plans, exercise routine, willpower, not going to eat the cookie, don't buy the candy, don't leave snacks in the house. But that's just a tiny piece of the puzzle. Because see, beneath the surface is the subconscious mind. And this is where the real drivers of behavior live. Experiences, big and little traumas that shape your beliefs about yourself, your body, and food. Okay? You may have heard of big T trauma and little t trauma. So, some examples of a big T trauma would be like growing up in an alcoholic household with a toxic parent, enduring any kind of abuse, psychological, verbal, sexual, which hopefully many of you have heard me talk about. These are major contributors to extra weight. And then there's also smaller traumas, which we call little T's. And so these are the ones that most people wouldn't necessarily think about. Okay. These are like everyday experiences that can be just as powerful, right? Like kids being mean to you at school, feeling unloved, coming home from school and your mom wasn't there to hug you, or struggling through a tough move or a divorce. See, these experiences add up over time and you create beliefs about yourself and the world. Beliefs like, I'm not safe, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable. And these beliefs silently control your behavior. This is why focusing on only diets and exercise isn't enough, because the real work happens below the surface. Is this making sense to everybody? Type yes in the chat. Okay, good. So I'm going to take you down a little trip down my memory lane. Here's a photo of me. All my empaths here, they might notice the light in my eyes, the innocence, the joy. You can just see the innate confidence emanating off of my being. And y'all, we're born like this. Every single one of us is born with an unshakable sense of self-worth. We know deep down that we deserve love, happiness, and everything good that the world has to offer. Okay? But then what happens? Life happens. Oops. Ah. So an experience like my parents were always too busy to listen to my problems, but food was always there for me. That develops into a belief that I'm on my own with my feelings, and food is my only reliable source of comfort. My parents dismissed my feelings and told me to get over it instead of comforting me, which developed into a belief system that my emotions are a burden to others, and it's better to just keep my feelings to myself. I was left alone at home from a young age with caregivers who were neglectful or frightening. I remember feeling unsafe and anxious and had no one to turn to, which develops into a belief that the world is a dangerous place and there's no one there to protect me. My needs were often ignored and I had to fend for myself. So I decided that my needs don't matter. Others won't provide for me. I'm alone and I must not rely on anyone. As we grow up, life happens, right? Traumatic experiences, big T's and little t's, they slowly chip away at that light. Now look at this photo of me. I think I'm like 12 or 13 here. My empaths in the room. Can you see the difference in my eyes? Can you see the light, how it's dimmed? Who notices the change in my eyes? Yeah. See, whether it's harsh words, feeling unloved, or moments that make us question our worth, these experiences create cracks in our confidence, and it starts to dim the light that we were born with. So then you grow up and you have different experiences, right? So when a kid at school pushed me and called me an idiot in front of everybody, I developed a belief that I'm stupid. No one likes me and I'm not important. Or when my grandma passed away and I saw her in her final moments, that turns into a belief loving someone means inevitable pain and it's safer to keep a distance. Or constantly being criticized and told I was never good enough by my caregiver, which formed a belief that I'm fundamentally flawed and I must earn my approval to be valued. Or when I was assaulted by someone that I thought was a friend, which developed into a belief that if I'm overweight, maybe I can protect myself from being hurt again. Now, this is how your traumas create low self-esteem. See, all that light gets buried under layers and layers of pain and self-doubt, culminating into an angry teenager with very low self-esteem. I now believe that my sexuality is my power. I'm unlovable. I'm stupid. I have nothing to offer of value. I can't trust anyone. I don't deserve to be loved. I don't deserve to be happy. I have to do everything alone. I'm not worthy. I have to earn love. I am not good enough. I'm ugly, I'm stupid, and people will betray you. You guys, my calling in this life and the work that I share is about peeling back those layers so that we can rediscover that light and that part of us that always knew that we were enough. Who is this resonating with? Is this resonating with you? I hope by sharing my story and sharing some of the things that have happened to me and the beliefs that were formed, you can see, look at how, you can tell, you can feel the anger coming out of me. You can feel the self-hatred coming out of me in these photos, right? This is what happens. Yeah, abuse, neglect, abandonment. Yes, yes, yes. I was invisible. Exactly. Everybody's going to have different things that have happened to them, and we'll probably all have a lot of similarities, which is one of the reasons you're probably attracted to me and my work. Now, is there anybody that's like, man, I don't know, this doesn't really apply to me. Like, I've never been mentally abused, never been sexually abused. Is anybody like that here? Just say yes. No judgment. Okay. So if that's you, the reality is there's actually one more secret hidden trauma that has affected all of us. Okay. And we're still traumatizing our children on a daily basis without realizing it. And tomorrow I'm going to circle back and tell you what this is, because I want to go deeper into that. So this is a photo. These are photos of me when I was 15 years old. And you may have heard this story before, but I was kicked out of my house when I was 15. And you probably think that I was a cute girl here. Well, I didn't think I was cute. I had low self-esteem. I had been sexually abused. I had narcissistic parents. I had experienced extreme severe emotional abuse. I dropped out of high school because I couldn't afford to pay my rent. And the only reason that I didn't end up on the streets is because something inside of me whispered that I was meant for more. And instead of ignoring that voice, like most people do, I chose to listen and I chose to believe. Fast forward to today, I've helped 257,469 women heal their relationship with food and lose weight. I've traveled the world for 10 years living as an expat in Latin America and Europe. I've run a multinational online business for more than a decade. I have amazing family and friends who love me. And I ticked off most of the experiences on my bucket list by the time I was 35. A friend of mine, his wife was a stay-at-home wife before she was a stay-at-home mom. See, she grew up with her mom working as a nurse. She would ask her mom to go to soccer games or take her to the mall with her friends, and she would always hear the same response. No, I can't do that. I'm not like Amy Miller's mom. Well, who's Amy Miller? See, Amy Miller was her friend's mom, who was a stay-at-home mom. She would, and Amy Miller's mom was able to take her daughter to all of her games. She was able to take her to the mall whenever she wanted. She planned fun parties for her kids, and she was always available for her children. My friend's wife saw her mom overworked, stressed out. She was always complaining. She wasn't happy, and she decided, I don't want that life. So guess what she decided she wanted to be when she grew up? A stay-at-home mom. Now, see, I had the opposite experience. When my parents got divorced, my mom didn't know how to provide for us, and my dad just took off. So we had to move in with my grandparents. Now, I saw how hard it was for my mom, and I decided I don't ever want to depend on a man for money. And so I worked, and I chose not to have a family because of that. Now, I share these experiences with you because these are also trauma responses. Trauma can be as simple as a comment or watching someone that you love experience something painful. These subtle messages or simple comments, they end up shaping our identity. And then you decide how you want to be in the world and what your world looks like. Okay, as I'm sure as I'm saying this, you guys are thinking of some things that happened to you that has shaped your identity. I guarantee your views about money, your views about your body, your views on relationships, you're doing things with money right now that's a direct reflection of something someone said or did in your life growing up. You think about your body in a way that's a direct reflection of something someone said or did in your life growing up. Y'all, these are scientific facts. This isn't the brain according to Brittany. This is exactly what any doctor or psychologist would tell you about how your brain works and how it stores memories and emotions. And you guys, this is a reminder. This is all subconscious. You won't realize you're doing it. You'll just wonder, why can't I stop eating chocolate? And why can't I ever stick to a diet? Right? It doesn't happen where you have an anxiety attack or somebody makes a bad comment and then you decide that you're going to go eat your feelings away. All that certainly can happen. That does happen. But more commonly, it looks like coming home from work after a long day. Maybe it's been hard. You had a lot of stress and you're home and now you can't put the ice cream down. Okay. This is your brain's way of triggering those positive and negative feelings. And remember, where is all this taking place? Type it in the chat. Where is it taking place? In the hippocampus. In the hippocampus. And who's in charge? The conscious or the subconscious mind? The subconscious. Exactly. Exactly. Okay, Brittany. So, so does anybody feel depressed right now? Because this seems hopeless, right? It does seem hopeless. I want everybody to write down the word unless. See, unless we retrain your brain and cut the ties. Okay, do you remember my hippocampus drawing? My awesome hippocampus drawing? I'm going to just put that on the screen next time. We can sever those ties so that you still have those memories, but they no longer give you an emotional reaction. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Can you imagine that? We can sever those ties so that you can experience stress. You can see a plate of cookies. You can see that guy at work that you don't like, and you cannot like him, but you don't have an emotional response to him. You're not overeating at work, right? You don't see a plate of cookies or see a jar of candy, or you don't, come home from a stressful day and then all you can think about is eating food. That stops happening. Okay? So here's a question for you. I'm going to give you a test, and don't worry, you're going to get it right. Okay, type in the chat what your name is. Type in the chat what your name is. Okay, so my next question is, how do you know that's your name? See, people have called you a lot of things in life, right? Somebody cuts you off on the freeway, they call you an asshole. If somebody calls you an asshole, that's your name now. So how do you know that's your name? It's on my birth certificate. My mom told me, my parents, early childhood. What's your point, Brittany? My point is, you respond to that name because you were trained to respond to that name. When you came here, you didn't even really know that that was your mom and dad. You come to learn that that's them, but you don't really know that at first. See, when you realize everything about you is something you were trained to respond to, you were literally handed a set of beliefs. They're somebody else's beliefs. There's a kid that's growing up, right? 5 or 6 years old, and she's just taken in the world, right? She's very observant. She likes learning. She likes looking around. She likes watching. She doesn't say much, right? She just kind of likes to take it all in. And people go, oh, yeah, she doesn't talk much. She's shy. Have you ever seen parents do this? Or maybe this happened to you. Oh, hey, this is my daughter. Oh, she's shy. And now what happens? What happens as you grow up? What do you start saying? I'm shy. You've taken ownership of that because that was handed to you. You could have just been taking in information and you just didn't have anything to say. You guys, you do this in your everyday life all the time. Most women, when they get married, they take the last name of their spouse, right? So that means you spend 20, 30, maybe 40 years responding to one last name. And then what happens as soon as you get married? You suddenly start responding to a totally different name, right? And do you remember the first time that you heard it out loud? Somebody called your name and you're like, oh, that's me, right? Well, what happened when you did that? You were retraining your brain to respond to that new name. You guys, we do this every day. They knock out a road and now you got to take a detour to work. You didn't know how to go that way at first. And then suddenly you just start taking that new route. You move to a new city. You don't know where anything is. What do? You go on Google, you find your coffee shop, you find your dry cleaners. You didn't know where they were, but you look it up. Google takes you there a few times. And then those become the places that you go to all the time. See, you just trained your brain to do something new. You weren't born knowing how to do all these things. You learned over time how to train your brain. Okay? What happens when you don't want an app on your phone anymore? What do? You delete it, right? Okay, so how many of you guys are single like me and you use dating apps? See, we download the app, like, okay, I'm single, I don't want to be single anymore. And now we're out there, we're swiping, we're looking for bae. And then we find someone we like. What do you do with the app? You delete it, right? Because you don't need it anymore. It served its purpose. You found bae, now it's not serving you anymore. See, just because your brain responds, just because this is the way your brain responds now, doesn't mean it's the way your brain always has to respond. We can cut the ties. Okay? I want you to type in the chat, cut the ties. Cut the ties, cut the ties. How many of you guys think it would be really valuable if I helped you just cut those ties right now? Because listen, we know we all have ties, right? That's what's triggering these behaviors. And if you don't get anything else from me, do you think it would be valuable today if I showed you how to cut those ties? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. All right. So let's do it. So here's how to basically install a new app for your brain to run. Okay. Step one, you got to figure out which memories and which experiences are triggering the cravings and emotional eating. Also, you got to figure out what's triggering the self-sabotage and the extra weight, and you relive those. Okay. And when you relive those experiences, what do you think happens? Your brain starts sending those stress signals, right? Or the pleasure signals. Step number two, your brain has to be interrupted from sending those signals and instead flood it with a different signal, right? So I remember learning this and thinking like, okay. So if my brain is just sending the wrong signals, well, how do I jam the signal? Right? Now, y'all, I don't know a whole lot. Remember, I dropped out of high school. Y'all got more degrees than a thermometer. I know who you are. But is this making sense to you the way it's making sense to me? You guys have seen those action movies, right? There's a bomb that's about to go off. And what does everybody always say? We got to jam the signal. We got to jam the signal. Well, what's the next question? How do we jam the signal? Y'all, I spent so many years in therapy, reading books, taking classes, trying every freaking book, program, pill that I could get my hands on trying to jam this signal. And I couldn't find it. I found a lot of things that helped me lose some weight sometimes, but it was always temporary. Nothing ever helped me permanently jam the signal. I would still get food cravings. I would still eat emotionally. I would still get grabbed with my emotional experiences, with my emotions and want to go run and eat. So at one point I realized, okay, if this is going to work, I got to find a way to jam the signal myself. Because I don't know about you, but I have very shitty willpower. I could not make myself walk around the block or take some deep breaths, or what's the new one? Putting your face in ice water. I couldn't do any of that stuff. None of that would take my hunger away, right? I couldn't do that. I knew I needed something so effective that my brain would forget to even have the cravings. And you guys, that is exactly what I discovered. And I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. See, what's crazy about this is when it's done repeatedly, not only can we jam the signal, we can completely disable the bomb, which means you stop having cravings altogether. Your brain won't remember how to eat emotionally. Your brain won't understand why it's holding on to all this extra weight. And all we did was jam the signal. You guys, this is not complicated. How many of you guys have exes? Raise your hand if you have exes. Right? We all have exes, right? See, at one point, that person meant the entire world to you. You would have such a positive emotional response to them. And then something happened. He didn't know how to act right. He did something you didn't like. And over some period of time, if you're honest, the thought of that ex kind of makes your skin crawl, right? How many of you guys have had this experience? I know I have. You may even think, God, I can't believe I was with that person. Right? Now, whether or not this is true, that's not for me to decide. But see, you trained yourself on how to act differently to that person based on things he did, right? You thought, okay, that's not serving me anymore. That's not good for me anymore. So you trained yourself on a new response to that person.
See, nothing I'm telling you guys is new. This is stuff you guys do every single day. Except nobody ever showed you how to do it in this area where it matters the most. Okay, so here's the missing piece, right? I know y'all want the missing piece. So I was looking for a way to interrupt the signal, remember? And do you guys remember when we used to listen to the radio? This is a throwback. Remember when we used to listen to the radio and we were driving between two towns and it would sort of like change from one channel to another and then you could hear both going on at the same time? Well, what I found is that we can actually do this with the brain. Okay? Remember, your brain triggers memories and it fires off a pain or a pleasure signal. But what I found is that we can jam the signal up if we send a different signal to confuse it, if we send it a relaxing signal. Okay. How many of you guys know there's specific areas on the human body when they're shown attention, they relax us, they calm us down? Like, obviously, most people have gotten a massage before, right? Or you've heard of acupressure. Yeah. There's certain areas on the body that when they get activated, we feel really good. You guys remember, I'm a high school dropout, but I thought, okay. If every time I feel pain or pleasure, I send a calming signal to, wonder what would happen. And I just started experimenting. And you guys, the craziest thing happened. At first, I tried it with my cravings and it worked. And then I tried the same thing with my emotional eating and it didn't work. So I experimented some more and then I discovered a different signal and I got it to work for emotional eating. But then I started sabotaging myself. Then I started losing too much weight. And so I tried to use those signals for self-sabotage and it didn't work. So I had to come up with a whole new signal. Then I got it to work for self-sabotage and I just kept tinkering with it. You guys, this is what I spent 10 fucking years figuring out. Over time, I figured out that there are 12 different calming signals for the brain to completely cut the ties. Okay? Every time I did that, every time I felt a pain signal, I sent a calming signal. Okay? And what I found is that if you do this repeatedly, you not only jam the signal, but you completely sever the tie to emotional eating and cravings forever. And over time, it didn't matter what happened to me that day. I was stressed. I got in a fight. I was critical about my body. There was ice cream in my freezer. My emotions no longer caused me to crave food. And that's how this works. When you do it repeatedly for a period of time, you can think about those bad things that happened and your brain just doesn't send a pain signal. You can still think of those positive memories of making cookies with your grandma, but you don't get an emotional response every time you see a chocolate chip cookie, right? That means you stop having cravings, you stop having emotional eating, you stop sabotaging yourself, and you finally no longer struggle with that constant food noise. And best of all, the best part is your body finally gets the message that this weight is no longer needed, right? So now I don't know what traumas you have. I don't know what your specific food triggers are. And those are things that we're going to have to figure out in order to find your own personal root cause so that we can sever the ties. But who wants a little taste of this? Who wants to experience how this works? I want you to raise your hand if you would like to sever the ties. How many of you guys would love to turn that food noise off so that you can feel in control around food all the time, even when you're stressed? Or how many of you would you like to leave food on your plate, not because you're trying to be good, but because you just don't want the rest? Right? Or how many of you guys would like to go to a party and not worry about overeating or over drinking when you're there? All right, let's do that. Okay. So I'm going to ask for some volunteers in a minute. I'm going to probably ask 2 people to be on camera. I'm going to walk you guys through a group exercise where I'm going to show you how to do this. We're all going to have this experience together, but I would like some people to be on camera just to be able to answer questions and to measure your results. Okay. So think about if that's you, but I want to go through the tapping, oh my gosh, I want to go through the tapping points here. Okay. So this is really easy. This is, it's a very forgiving technique. How many of you guys are brand new to tapping? Like, who's never done tapping before? Type yes in the chat if you've never done tapping. Okay. Some of you. Okay. Sounds like most of you have, but so I'm going to just go through this quick. So this is a very forgiving process. The only way you can do this wrong is if while you're tapping, you're not thinking about what I'm guiding you to think about. Okay. If you're thinking about your laundry list, or if you even catch yourself thinking like, God, this is so weird. Why am I doing this? Oh my gosh, I feel so awkward. Just, try to bring yourself back. I'm going to walk you through a visualization and try to just bring your back to the word, to bring yourself back to the words that I'm saying. Okay. So we've got the karate chop point, which is this fleshy part of the outside of your hand that you would use to make a karate chop. We've got the eyebrow point, which is the beginning of the eyebrow, outside of the eye, under the eye, under the nose, chin point, collarbone point, under the arm. If you have big boobs or if that's hard for you, you can just pat the side, or you can go like this, or you can leave this point out completely. Okay. And then tippy top of the head. Okay. I just take like 4 fingers and kind of generally tap there. Okay. Is this making sense to everybody? Yes. Okay, good. So I'm going to explain, let's see, am I going to explain this? Yes. Okay. You guys can see me okay, right? You see the picture of the tapping points, and then you can also see me, right? Cool. Okay. So what we're going to do is, well, no, first I'm going to explain to you that when your hippocampus is being triggered, it is triggering a set of either one or multiple experiences or impressions that you have. Okay. And I developed echo tapping by accident as a way to solve any addictive urge that goes on. Okay. So I'm going to explain to you how echo tapping works, and then I'm going to walk you through it. So echo tapping is a technique that heals emotional eating by working with echoes. Okay. Echoes are younger versions of yourself that are stuck in past experiences. Now, these echoes, they were created when something stressful or something painful happens and your brain can't fully process it. Okay, what happens is this memory gets stored in the hippocampus, and then when something similar happens to it in the present, it triggers that echo along with the feelings of stress or discomfort. Your brain then releases that feel-good chemical like dopamine and serotonin to calm you down by craving food. Okay, does that make sense? With echo tapping, what we do is we use the urge for food as like a map to take us to the experiences that need to be healed. It's kind of like solving a mystery. The food will tell us where to go next. Okay. When we connect with our younger echoes in these moments, we can reframe those past experiences, and then you can heal the stuck emotions and you can break the cycle of emotional eating forever. Okay. All right, so I'm going to have you guys think about your scene, and then I'm going to ask you guys for, I'm going to ask for some volunteers. Please have good lighting. Please have your camera on. Please don't have any commotion going on in the background, and please be willing to share your experience if you would like to volunteer. Okay. So I want everybody to figure out how you're going to use this, because if you understand my work, cravings and emotional eating are 2 different problems. And you cannot, just like I was explaining to you how I had to come up with 12 different signals in order to solve emotional eating permanently, the cravings and emotional eating are 2 different problems, and you can't use the same signal for them. Okay. So emotional eating, the definition of emotional eating is when something happens and any food will do. You go, and even if there's no food in the house, you will eat a can of cold beans that is 10 years old. Okay. Whereas when cravings hit, cravings feel like they feel urgent, but there's only one food that will do in that moment. Okay. And you'll go like way out of your way, or like the new thing is like Instacart, not Instacart, DoorDash. Like you'll DoorDash $5 McFlurry, and it'll cost, $25 by the time it gets to your door, right? Like you'll go way above and beyond what you would normally do in order to get that food, right? It feels like an urgency. It's not a preference, right? Okay. So this technique right now, this one works for emotional eating. So I want you to think about a scenario where you feel really out of control around food, okay? And usually these are scenarios that happen over and over again, right? So like I've used the office example a lot. Maybe every time you're at the office, you just can't stop snacking. Or another really common one is when everybody goes to sleep at night and you just can't stop eating all the snacks in the cupboard. Okay, I want you to figure out what is your scenario that you're going to work on, because we're all going to do this tapping exercise together. Okay. Let's see. Yes. What is it about night? I don't know, Jeanette. You'll find out what it is about night. You'll find out what it is for you. It's going to be different for everybody. What if you DoorDash for 5 different items because you can't choose? Yes, that definitely qualifies. That would be well, that might be emotional eating actually. Late at night, all alone. I want you to type in the chat here, what scenario what happens over and over again where you get triggered to eat and you know you're not really hungry? Talking about money with my husband. I love that, Kate. Yes, that's absolutely one. This happened to me yesterday at dinner with a friend. Okay. If that happens, does that happen often with this person? Can you identify, is it the person? Is it having dinner? Is it being out? The more specific you can get, the better. Ooh, okay. Comments are piling up. Okay. Oh shoot. Okay. I can't get on top of these as fast as you guys. I love how active you are. It's amazing. Sit and watch TV in the evenings. That's a super, super common one. Family reunions, lots of food and fun around. Yes. Overeat every time. That's a great one. Late night when I'm concentrating on the computer. Perfect. That's another really good one. Sitting at home alone, watching TV, boredom. Okay, great. You guys have this. Okay. So I want everybody to think about your scenario. Okay. And we don't need food for this exercise, but what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that you're in that scenario. And so like put yourself there. Okay. Like close your eyes right now. Stop chatting with me. Close your eyes. And I want you to go to that moment. Go to that moment. Okay. And notice what's happening in your environment. Notice who's triggering you. Notice, what's triggering you. You don't even have to know why it's happening. Just notice that you feel triggered and notice your desire for the food. Okay. You probably won't even notice that you feel triggered because most people, they don't notice that they feel triggered. They just notice that they want food. So I want you to now, in that moment, I want you to decide how badly you want to eat food on a scale from 0 to 10. Okay, 0 is no desire at all, and 10 is like the most it could possibly be. Okay, looks like people are at a 10, 9, 8. Okay, awesome. Who would like to share with me what your scenario is? And Kimberly said, I would love to. Okay, Kimberly, let me try to find you. Kimberly, cool. Kimberly, I'm going to allow you to talk. And I'm going to promote you to, oh shoot, I'm going to promote you to panelist. So Kimberly, what I want you to do is I want you to tell me what your scenario is and then what your number is at the same also.
Okay.
I can. I just can't see you yet.
Run away. Okay. Here we go. Video.
Yay. Hi.
My scenario is anytime I have flexible time where I have things to do, but I get to choose what I do next. So it could be the end of the day, but it also could be like this entire weekend. I'm in total panic mode because there's millions of things to do and I can't prioritize. So it's a 10.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like you get into overwhelm really easily, and that's your way, and you use food as a way to cope with overwhelm.
Yeah. And the clutter, like this room needs so much to be purged. I escape from the clutter by going to eat. Like to go to a cafe there's no other. But I stood here even at the beginning of the session. I was like, well, yeah, it doesn't matter. I can stop talking.
No, thank you for sharing that, because it's so common. I can't tell you how many students of mine who go through the program, they'll get like halfway through, and often people will say, oh my God, I woke up today and I just like purged everything in my house. They couldn't stand all the clutter, because the clutter is actually a representation of those indentations in your hippocampus. It's a representation of the kind of like junk that's going on in your subconscious mind. The more you clean out your mind, the more you want your environment to be clean. Okay. So I want you to focus, for you, Kimberly, I want you to focus on the overwhelm. Okay. I don't want you to necessarily focus on the clutter, because it's the overwhelm that's the trigger for you, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's
okay.
Anything.
Okay.
Clutter, but also too much anything.
Too much anything. Okay, cool. So I want you to focus on that too much anything feeling, that like, oh my God, there's too much. I don't know where to start. It's too much. Okay.
Also, can I just throw more like a revelation as you were talking about everything today?
Sure.
I had a lot of breakthroughs in doing your free challenge. But lately it's actually transitioned a little bit to scrolling, and I'm really realizing it's the idea of consuming anything. And so I know that this is going to help across the board, but it's just the need to like eat something.
Yeah, it's the need to check out. It's the need to check out from what you're currently experiencing. And what's so cool about this is that you can use the food to find the root cause of what is making you check out. And so what happens is it has this spillover effect. There's a reason why our students make more money, have better relationships, get raises out of nowhere, increase their happiness levels. We don't work on any of that stuff in the program, but because they're able to clean all of these things out, it's all connected, right? You're checking out of, being overwhelmed, whether you're using your phone or you're using food, it's coming from a source. And if we can heal that source, you stop doing all of those unhealthy behaviors, right? It's kind of like a, kill, 10 birds with one stone kind of situation. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Kimberly. I really appreciate it. Okay. I'm going to come back to you. I'm just going to mute you for a sec and I'll come back. Okay, who else would like to go and tell me what their scenario is? I think it's really helpful just to talk through a couple. Carrie, okay, I'm going to look for you, Carrie. Sue, do you want to go? Here.
Yes, hello.
Hey, Sue, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I just turned your camera on, I think. There we go. Hey,
Yeah,
Sue.
hello.
Hey.
Technology, isn't it great?
It's great. It's great. I'm having a day with it. It's all right. What are you going to work on today? What's your scenario?
So my probably my biggest scenario is I work from home. I have a desk job, and when I get bored or stressed, I go and make a cup of tea, and there's a pretty overwhelming desire to eat along with that cup of tea.
Perfect.
That's my biggest trigger.
Okay. Who else has that? Who else? Type yes in the chat if that one's you. I remember I had this one all the time. It was so stressful. And because everybody works from home now, this is so common. So thank you, Sue, for bringing that up. And okay, so when you put yourself at your desk, you're probably there right now. And you think about the stress that you have and like the work that's piling up. When you go to the kitchen, how strong is that desire to eat food on a scale from 0 to 10?
Pretty much between an 8 and a 10, depending on the circumstances.
Depending on the day. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's have you focus on that, and I'm gonna come back and check in with you. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Okay, I want everybody to take a nice deep breath. I want you to, again, everybody focus on what it is for you
Let's see. Can you guys see me? Oh, I gotta find where my chat roll is. You can see me? Okay, cool. Okay. So again, go to that scenario, go to that thing that happens over and over again and feel that stress, okay? Feel that desire to eat food. Okay, look down at that food. Again, you don't have to have the food in front of you, but just notice how strong it is on a scale from 0 to 10. Okay? And I'm going to walk you guys through visualization, and I want you guys to know that everybody will get this right. Okay? I have doctors and lawyers. This might seem kind of like esoteric, but I want you to know that I have very analytical people do this all the time. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a question like, how old are you right now? Okay, and I just want you to already know that you're gonna get the answer right. Okay, and I'm gonna snap my fingers and I'm gonna ask your unconscious mind to answer the question. Okay. Now, we're not doing it yet, but I'm telling you how it's going to work. So this is what's likely to happen. If you've never done this with me before, you could see a number of a certain age kind of like floating around you. You could see yourself as a child and just know how old you are, or you could have like a knowing sense of the answer. Some people even hear an answer. Okay. So I want everybody to know there's nothing wrong. You're not crazy, but your unconscious mind is going to give you the answer. It's just your brain, depending on your brain and depending on how you process information, will depend on how you get that answer. Okay. So again, go back to the scenario. I want you to think about that situation that triggers you. Really feel that stress. I want you to get it to a 10. Try to get it to a 10. Make the situation even worse. Okay. Now look down at the food or think about that food that you want to go get. Imagine that you go and get it and it's right there in front of you. Okay. I want you to notice how your body's like drawn towards it. Okay. Notice your body like reach out for it, how you just can't stop from like wanting, you have this like pull almost from the food. Okay. And then with both hands, just in your mind's eye, I want you to take the food and I want you to push it away from you at least a foot. Okay. And then you're going to start tapping on your karate chop point and just go ahead and follow along with me for the tapping points. Okay. I want you to sit back. I want you to close your eyes. You're probably feeling really bad right now. Okay. So I want you to tune into that bad feeling. Okay. And I'm going to ask you a question here. And I want you to allow your unconscious mind to go with the very first thing that pops up. Okay. How old are you right now? You might see a number, feel a number, just have a knowing sense of the number. Again, don't worry, you're going to get it right. Okay. Just go with whatever answer you get. Now keep tapping through the points here, and I want you to see yourself at that age. And you're going to start walking over to her, okay? You're going to get closer and closer and closer. You're inching your way up until you're right there in front of her, or you're behind her, depending on where she is. Okay, now the anxiety might be higher at this point, okay? Is anybody noticing that your anxiety is getting even higher? Okay, that's okay. I want you to just keep tapping and keep breathing. Okay, we're going to stand here for a minute, really, really close to that younger version of you. And when you feel ready, I want you to step inside her body, open your eyes, take a look around, and tell me what's going on, even if you think you're making it up. Okay, keep tapping through the points as you do this. So what I want you to do is I want you to allow yourself to feel all the emotions that you're feeling right now. Allow yourself to boldly step into these feelings, knowing that this is the last time you ever have to feel this way. And as soon as you step into these feelings, they're going to dissolve in seconds. Okay, keep tapping through the points as you do this.
Now, if there's anything that you want to say right now that's appropriate to this situation, I want you to go ahead and say that out loud right now. Okay, everybody's muted, so say it out loud. Maybe it's something like, that's not fair. How could you? That wasn't right. Why me? And just, we're going to spend like 30 seconds here, and I want you to say whatever words are popping into your head intuitively right now. Keep tapping as you do this. Just follow along with me. And I want you to just keep tapping until you notice your body take a breath, or you'll notice your body kind of like relax a little bit. You might yawn, you might sneeze, but I just want you to tap until you notice that release. Okay? Now, once you notice your body relax, I want you to keep tapping through the points, and I want you to come back to today, back to the adult that you are. And I want you to take a nice deep breath. Okay? Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do another round of tapping, and I'm going to walk you through another visualization. Okay? So keep tapping through the points now. And I want you to see yourself at the age that you were. Okay? So if you're 5, 6, 10, however old. And as the adult that you are today, I want you to step into this scene with the little version of you. And I want you to put your arms around her and hug her and love her and tell her that everything is going to be okay. And I want you to let her know that you are here for her no matter what. And that even if she can't depend on anyone else, you're here. You're here to help her. You're here to watch over her. She can always depend on you. Keep tapping through the points and tell her anything else that she needs to know right now. Take a few moments to say that, and I'm going to be quiet. Keep tapping through the points. And as you're sitting with the little version of you, maybe she's right next to you, or maybe she's even in your lap, curled up with you, or maybe you could just be holding hands. I want you to imagine 2 huge golden angels that are standing on either side of you. And they have these huge wings that wrap you in their bright white light. They're wrapping you with their unconditional love. All right, keep tapping through the points. And I want you to imagine these angels turning on a beautiful shower head made of crystal. And we're going to turn up that dial, okay, to hold space for you. We're going to hold you in a very tight container so that we can heal together, okay? Notice how good it feels to allow this brilliant, bright white light to cleanse every part of your body. I want you to feel that crystal light, that bright, brilliant crystal white light cleansing every part of your body, all your cells, your organs, your body, her body, your energy body, her energy body. Allow this light to clean out every single part of your body, clearing out all the stuck emotions, stuck energies, limiting belief systems. Just imagine it going through every single part of your body. And see it go, look down at the little you and look at her, and it's going through her body too. And here's the cool part. The ground is like a huge vacuum cleaner, and it loves debris. In fact, the ground literally turns shit into flowers. Okay. So I want you to imagine a huge vacuum cleaner. The ground is a huge vacuum cleaner, and it just slurps all the yucky stuff out of your body and out of her body into the ground. Okay. Now stop tapping for a minute and take a nice deep breath. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use the brilliant bright white light to fill you back up, to restore you, to bring you back to yourself. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to feel, you don't have to tap for this. I want you to feel as this brilliant white light fills you up. Imagine your body is a vessel and you are receiving this brilliant bright white light. Okay. It's filling up your head, your neck, your shoulders, your chest, your arms, your stomach, hips, your thighs, your knees, your calves and your feet. Feel as you get so full of this brilliant white light that it shoots out of your fingertips, it shoots out of your toes, it shoots out over the top of your head, and it spills out over your heart. And I want you to feel yourself fountaining this brilliant, bright white light. And I want you to look down at the little you and look at her fountaining this white light too. And I want you to notice the look she has on her face. Notice how she's shifted. Now, at this point, you can ask her if she wants to come with you. See, our echoes get frozen in time, and they really don't want to be frozen. They want to be healed, and they want to come with you, and they want to grow up. Okay. So most of the echoes usually say yes when I ask, but ask her if she wants you to come, if she wants to come with you. And if she says yes, I want you to imagine shrinking her down into little teeny tiny bite size, pick her up, put her in your heart, and feel as she grows up inside of you. Okay. You might even feel your brain reorganize a little bit here. Notice how she gets bigger and bigger and bigger and older and older and older until she becomes you as the person you are today, with this new way of seeing the world and this new way of seeing that situation. Okay, now take a nice deep breath. And I want everybody to go back to that same scenario that you started with. You're at home, you're at work, you're alone at night. And I want you to put yourself in that scenario and look around at the food and notice how triggered you are on a scale from 0 to 10. And I'm going to find my comments again. Where did my comments go? Oh, they're on this camera. Okay, and tell me what your number is now on a scale from 0 to 10. Sharon's a 0, Tamara's a 0, Jessica's a 1, Melissa's a 1. Okay, wow, there's so many zeros. Amazing. Went from a 9 to a 2. Put what your first number is and then what your second number is. Sally went from a 10 to a 5. 2, 8 to a 3, 8 to a 0, 10 to a 0. Great. Oh my gosh. 8 to a 3, 12 to a 2. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Okay, so what did you guys notice about this? Tell me what you noticed. What happened for you? And I'm going to check in with Kimberly. Kimberly, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Kimberly, tell us what happened. How was that for you?
It was great. It was so, so powerful. It's the second super powerful experience I've had working with you, and it's just amazing. And I'm a little like, I haven't gotten an immediate answer of how I feel. I think I'm still like integrating. I was like,
Yeah.
she's gonna ask me, so I was trying to like get there
Yeah,
faster.
yeah. Well, put yourself back in that scenario where you're like overwhelmed, there's so many things going on, you're like, "Oh, I'm not sure what to do." And just notice how triggered you are. Notice how triggered you are to eat food on a scale from 0 to 10. You're a 4. Okay, great. You started at a 10, you're at a 4.
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. So what happens, you guys, is that typically there are sometimes, not always, because a lot of you guys got to a 0, but sometimes there are 3 echoes on top of an experience. So something like overwhelm or being stressed at work or eating all alone at night, typically those can be caused by multiple echoes and multiple scenarios that are stacked on top of each other. So sometimes we have to repeat this over and over again until we get it to an actual 0. Okay. Typically you don't have to repeat it for more than 3 times. Okay. So Kimberly, that's what I'd suggest to get you to a 0. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you
So
for
powerful. So amazing. Thank you for bringing this to the world.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It is definitely my life's work, but thank you for it feels good to be acknowledged for that. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna make you an attendee, Kimberly. Sue, go ahead and unmute yourself. And how are you doing, Sue?
I found that quite an emotional experience. I went back to the time when I was 6 or 7 years old, and I can remember it so clearly. I can remember exactly where I was in my mum's house. Nan and Grandad used to come and visit once a year, and I would leap into Grandad's arms for a cuddle. And I remember him saying, "You're too heavy." When I'd got to that point, and you know, the devastation that, you know, it's like he didn't love me anymore. You know, felt so rejected. So it took me back there, and you know, it was so healing to go through this process. I think it's going to make a big difference going forward.
Thank you so much, Sue, for sharing that and for being vulnerable about that, because that's a really, really strong one. And I want to point out something about Sue's memory here for everybody is that you wouldn't ever think that her being stressed at work or feeling overwhelmed with all the work stuff that's on her plate would be connected to her jumping into her grandfather's arms and her feeling unloved and unworthy, right? And you guys, this is why we have to use the food to take us to the traumas. There's a lot of you guys that have done a lot of inner healing work. Some of you guys come to all my shit and you think you know how to do this stuff alone. And the truth is, when you go hunting for traumas without using the food to take you there, you're just going to be healing a bunch of traumas, but it's not necessarily going to be fixing your emotional eating or your weight problems. Okay, so that was a super, super good example of that. Thank you, Sue, for allowing me to.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. And you might need to do a couple more rounds on that. That's my sense, but it would be great to get to the bottom of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tomorrow, you guys, we're going to talk about self-sabotage. Who wants to know why they sabotage themselves from being a healthy weight? Who liked that experience? I asked you guys for your feedback and then I didn't read it. Let's see here. Oh my gosh, so many zeros. Okay, tears flowed. Not sure but I feel like crying. I was so sleepy and now I don't want any more. Oh, awesome. I had 2 that came to mind. Okay. That's really, really common. If you have a couple that come to mind, that means that there's multiple echoes that are on top of that experience. Okay. You heard me explain that. Connected to the little me, and she said it was okay for me to bring her. Brittany, when you shared your childhood story, I got super triggered and couldn't stop my own pain until after the session. I'm so sorry, Renee. Is it normal to be filled with emotions and cry? Absolutely. This is how most people experience this as a very emotional experience.
Okay. All right. I'm going to read through these when we get off because I want to respect everybody's time today. Okay. So tomorrow we're going to talk about self-sabotage. Okay. I know this is where you guys get really, really stuck. Okay. And I'm going to be walking you through one of my most powerful methods to change your weight set point. You guys, I'm not joking. Tomorrow we're going to change your weight set point together. I'm actually going to do it just like we did with the emotional eating today. And I want to see what happens. Like, notice in your day what happens after you go through this exercise. I want you to notice how you feel about food. Notice if you're less triggered, if you're more triggered, because tomorrow I want to hear about that. We're gonna open up, and I want you to share what happens for the rest of the day. And you guys, there's no right or wrong. Okay, this is all just information, right? That's how I built my entire process, is by doing experiments on myself and then just noticing what would happen after that. Okay. So this is all just an experiment, but I'm going to be taking you through literally my method to change your weight set point. My students have joked that it feels like they had gastric bypass surgery because of how much less they wanted to eat. Okay. So I think you're going to find it really, really valuable. So thank you everybody for being here. I'm going to see you back here tomorrow at the exact same time. All right. Thanks everybody. Ciao, ciao. Can't wait to see you tomorrow.